pass it over to Gabrielle. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Gabrielle, and I'll be leading the movement today, the qigong. My pronouns are she, her, and normally I'm residing in Santa Monica, California, Southern California, but I actually am in my hometown of Honolulu today. So yeah, and that's Coco, who's my mom's cat. Here we are, me and Coco. We'll see how that goes. He'll be out of the room for that part, but he's a little anxious right now. Anyway, by day, I'm an acupuncturist and herbalist, and yeah, I'm very much looking forward to being with you all remotely to experience qigong and this day. I love steeping in the Dharma, and I'm happy to have this day with you all. Gullu?
Yeah, my name is Gullu Singh. I use he, him pronouns. I am in Santa Monica, California. Left behind as Gabrielle went to Hawaii. And by day, I'm a corporate real estate lawyer, which is actually, I'm thankful to say, has become a little bit more of a side hustle. And this is the way I get to spend most of my time. And I'm so happy you're all here. I'm always surprised and pleased when people show up. Beautiful here. It's a beautiful sunny day, and we get to spend it in some practice. So really grateful and looking forward to our time together.
So, yeah, just settling in and allowing yourself to arrive a little bit more fully. And just really how you are. No need to kind of corral or arrange a spiritual version of yourself. You can be completely natural here. And we'll get started with Gullu sharing the Dharma.
So I'm really noticing that the Buddha said this 2,600 years ago, but the world is on fire. It feels like there's so much news and none of it is very good. We're entering the heart of our political season, which is painful and divisive. There are conflicts around the world. And for me, this is all happening in the backdrop of climate change, which often doesn't even make the list of the things that we're talking about. So acknowledging that actually is the beginning of practice. The seminal teaching was that there are these streams of suffering in this realm, and the way we learn to move in this world with grace and some equanimity is by not denying the reality that's there, but working with it in a very specific and methodical way, which we're going to begin to explore today. And So while acknowledging that the world is going on, we're really engaging in this beautiful practice of retreat. It's a way that we are going to step out of our normal day-to-day world to have a little bit simplicity and to engage with the inner world in a way that is profoundly healing and helps us cope when we go back into our activities. The Buddha has really, encouraged this idea of retreat. The ancient word in Pali, the language that the Buddha's teachings were written down in, is viveka, and it can be the sense of like going to a remote place or a place that is a little more quiet. Uh, a hut in a forest is the analogy that's sometimes used. But even more importantly, it can be a simplification of the environment wherever we are, and a kind of seclusion or retreat that happens internally. We'll be directing the mind not so much to be engaging in the normal day-to-day activities, but we'll be kind of secluding the mind and directing the mind inward. So the things that support this for our relatively short time together are noble silence. If you live in a place where you can not be in a lot of communication with folks, that's helpful. Staying off our devices other than the one you need to communicate with us, maybe turning off any tabs that have news alerts or email updates, just to try to create more space, more simplicity, less stimulation. These are things that are all conducive to our sense of restoration that can happen from retreat. And we're at home, most of us, or in a not together in a center, so we just do the best we can to be as simple as we can, and then also accepting that I'm in an urban area and might hear people walking their dogs, and life continues, but we're just directing our attention a little bit more inward. So the framework for this retreat is based on a teaching of the Buddha called the Satipatthana Sutta. It's the Buddha's discourse on mindfulness. It's almost an instruction manual for how to practice mindfulness. And I'm one of those people that loves manuals. So when I construct my IKEA bookshelf, there aren't like a bunch of extra parts left over, like a shelf that didn't fit anywhere. This is one of my favorite teachings because it is very much a sort of systematic step-by-step exploration of ways to establish mindfulness, ways to cultivate mindfulness. The word satipatthana, sati means mindfulness. So much to say about this word mindfulness. Maybe awareness is a better translation. We're cultivating more agency over our awareness. I once went on a 14-day retreat with Gil Fronsdale, and he's mindfulness retreat, and he started the retreat by saying he didn't know what mindfulness was. And I love that because we can get all these sort of technical definitions, but we can also just be curious and interested with what happens when we follow the instructions. That being said, you could say that mindfulness is a quality of paying attention, where we're aware of the experience and also aware that we're aware. And maybe we're meeting that experience with an attitude of friendliness and ease. The analogy I like is that if you're watching a movie, sometimes the movie is so engaging that you forget that you're watching a movie. And, frightening things are happening in the movie, so you get frightened, and tense things are happening in the movie, and so you get tense. So with this attitude of mindfulness, it's like we know we're watching a movie. We know what the movie is about. And there's also some perspective or distance, so we're not so much impacted by what's happening in the movie. And the movie, of course, is all the things we experience in our life through our senses and in our mind. Most of us, most of the time, the sort of natural way of going through the world is that to be lost in thought, that we're kind of like going along with the plot of our thoughts and our inner drama on a kind of autopilot. And mindfulness pops this bubble of thinking so we can be aware that we're thinking. And I'm just going to share a video that kind of speaks to this that I enjoy. I don't think you need to see me there. So I'll make sure the sound is turned on.
Ladies, have you ever remember the time when you had a moment of silence in your head? Doesn't happen, does it? No. Always thinking. Sometimes you can't even sleep because you won't shut the hell up. You in the bed and your mind is just racing about nothing. Just, I need to talk to her tomorrow because I ain't like the way she spoke to me today. And I'm not going to have this uncomfortable thing going on between us. Did I lock the door? I should have bought those shoes. Where's my high school yearbook? Ooh, what you gonna have for lunch tomorrow? I don't know. Why you think about lunch? You need to have a good breakfast. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start every morning with a good breakfast. Maybe I'll start that low carb diet. That seems to be working for a lot of people. What was my third grade English teacher's name? What was her name? Miss Jones, Miss Jenkins. Ooh, it's late. I need to be asleep. What the hell am I doing up? I don't know. Let me think about it.
Maybe some of you can relate to this nature of the mind to kind of go wild, you know? I mean, that's how it is. Sometimes the mind is analogized to an animal that roams around everywhere, you know, here and there, like maybe a cat or a monkey or dog. And so in the same way you might put a dog on a leash, mindfulness is a soft leash that helps us keep the mind close by, keep more under our control. And we don't make this happen, you know, it's sort of like trying to will the mind to be still, or trying to will our thoughts to be more productive. It just doesn't actually work. But in our practice today and in life, we put together conditions, we put in place conditions that allow this to naturally happen. And I'm fond of the analogy of a snow globe. So I have this snow globe here, and life is kind of like going through a snow globe. You know, there's lots of inputs, lots of activity, and lots of things happening. And there's not really a technique that I could use to try to settle the snow globe. But if I allow the snow globe to be still, then it settles of its own accord. It's the nature of the snow globe to settle. So these conditions that we're putting in place, where we're going to be more or less still, more or less quiet, going to direct the attention in a very specific way that simplifies things. All these things are conditions that allow the natural settling of the mind and the body to happen on its own. It's a natural process that we don't control, but we can facilitate by through practice. So sati patana, sati is mindfulness or awareness. Patana is actually means establishment. So the 4 ways of establishing mindfulness, the 4 ways of cultivating mindfulness. I've also heard it called the 4 abidings in mindfulness. And I've started to share some slides on these things because I think, although it feels a little odd in the context of a meditation retreat, many people report that, you know, they're more visual learners and that this is helpful. I just have a few slides I'll share with you. So the 4 satipatthanas, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, are mindfulness of the body, and that's what I'll be primarily talking about this morning. Mindfulness of Vedanā, feeling tone, the sense of pleasant, unpleasant, or neither that Louije will be shepherding us into. Mindfulness of the mind, so the state of mind, the attitude of the mind, and then mindfulness of dharmas, the way in which some of the other maps that we get from the Buddha we use in our mindfulness practice. The body has a lot of primacy and importance in Buddhist practice. The Buddha is said to have said that it's within this fathom-long body with its perception and intellect that is the whole cosmos, the origination of the cosmos, the cessation of the cosmos, and the path of practice leading to cessation of the cosmos. This idea that everything that we need for our own awakening, to cultivate our own sense of well-being, to make sense of how to live in this difficult world, is found within this fathom-long body. The central premise in each of these foundations of mindfulness is that we're moving from this conceptual way in which we relate to our experience through thoughts and ideas, concepts and language, and we're shifting that into a more direct, visceral knowing. And we shift the way we identify with our objects of that, what's coming into awareness. Like, how are we aware? What's the attitude that we're meeting this moment with? You hear mindfulness teachers talking a lot about being in the moment or greeting this moment. And this is another way of shifting the frame from ideas and concepts, which are often forward-looking or backward-looking, into what's actually happening now. And the body is a really good vehicle for this, because we were working primarily with the breath today. And the breath, you can only feel the breath that's happening right now. You can remember the breath that happened before. You can imagine the breath that might happen next. But if we're connecting with this feeling, like the visceral sensation of the belly expanding and contracting, of the chest rising and falling, of the air coming out at the nose or the upper lip, that only happens in this moment. And to tune into those sensations gives more, our thoughts can sort of be in the background and over time begin to simplify and settle. And the breath is probably the most commonly used object. This Satipatthana talks about many ways of practicing mindfulness in the body. The breath is always there. It's constantly changing, and it's more or less neutral for most people. It's not usually that scintillating to pay attention to your breath. But if the breath is not neutral for you, if you have a strong negative association with breathing, maybe you have some sort of condition, or maybe you've had an experience that has traumatized you, then whenever I say breath, you can instead just tune into hearing. Tune into the capacity of allowing sounds to arrive at the ear and be known in awareness. If you come to our longer retreat, we'll have many more ways to practice. So the Buddha's kind of sales pitch for mindfulness is just these words appear in the beginning of the Satipatthana Sutta. I'll just read them and break them down a little bit. This is the direct path for the purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation, for the disappearance of dukkha, which you could say stress or suffering, the disappearance of dukkha and discontent, for acquiring the true method for the realization of peace. Direct path, kind of like that, get straight to it. This is where this path goes. For the purification of being. So this is one of the things that we often experience on retreat, is that we begin to look inward, and all the things that are standing in the way of our well-being begin to appear. The gripes that we have about things, the aches and pains in the body, sometimes we call these the orphans of the heart, the things that don't get enough attention in our day-to-day life begin to reveal themselves. And this is part of the process that we call purification. We kind of sometimes have to go through a little bit of the fire of meeting these difficult energies, but in the end it purifies our being. So those things are cleaned out and we have access to a more radiant, open-hearted way of being. Path for the purification of beings, for the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation. That sounds pretty good. I have a lot of sorrow and much lamentation. For the disappearance of stress and discontent. Also sounds really good. For acquiring the true method. And I really like this idea of the method, as it points to that it's not something we're doing in terms of creating these conditions, but it's a commitment to a path of practice. It's a commitment to these techniques, strategies, and the way we integrate these teachings into our practice and our life. It's moments of path activity. So for our purposes today, that means moments of mindfulness. It's the moments of mindfulness, one after the other, that are creating this effect. So when we are confused about the instructions or we don't know what to do, it's always just this resting the awareness in this moment, coming back to what's here, what's true in this moment. What's the feeling of the breath moving in and out of the body. It's just sort of simple loyalty and commitment to that is all we really need. And then ineffably, remarkably, I've seen time and time again how this practice leads to a kind of emergent sense of well-being and peace. And some of us hold that this can kind of go all the way to what we might call some form of awakening or liberation, when the heart is really transformed. So the basic technique that the Buddha describes, again, I've got a little chart here, is sit at the base of a tree or an empty hut. So for our purposes, wherever you are is just fine. We'll create this sense of being in a forest or an empty hut, just by the way we're going to interact with today. Legs crossed, body erect. This is a great way to sit if your body will allow it. But really what's most important here is to be comfortable, especially if you're not used to sitting. We'll be sitting, well over an hour today, finding a posture that's really comfortable. One of my teachers always says, the next Buddha will be sitting in a chair and we'll have to change all these statues. You remember that these teachings come from a time 2,600 years ago where people probably didn't use chairs or need chairs. So we'll use all the technology that we have to be as comfortable as possible. And then we establish mindfulness. So we come into presence. We connect with this moment. There's a kind of movement of mind that it could be a word, like here, now. this moment, or it's just a kind of ineffable movement of the mind that's like the step backward out of being entranced in the movie to be aware that the movie is happening. And then the basic instruction is to abide contemplating the body, in this case the breath, diligently. So this requires some energy, some diligence, some persistence, because the mind will draw us away into our to-do lists, into our worries, into whatever's on our mind. And this diligence that we're talking about is the unwavering commitment that when you notice that the mind has wandered, we'll just diligently begin again. You know, I kind of like this image of like shaking it off, softening, smiling, and just beginning again. And that moment actually that we realize that we're caught in thought is actually the moment of mindfulness. So we can revere and celebrate that moment. Contemplating the breath, diligent, clearly knowing. So in this process, we're going to develop a kind of higher resolution awareness of breathing, guide you through some of that. So clearly knowing and mindful. And then the kicker, free from desires and discontent in regard to the world. How on earth do you do that? Like that sounds so, it's like such a lofty goal. And maybe that's the first part of it. This is aspirational, that we're developing this ability to sit free from desires and discontent in regard to the world. Also, for this period of practice, we're kind of leaving the world behind a little bit. We're really engaging inward. So part of this is just saying, like, let's just, every time we notice we've picked up our desires and discontent with regard to the world, we'll just put them down so we can be free of them moment by moment. Then another way to make sense of these words is the quality of care, the quality of tenderness, the quality of gentle interest and curiosity with which we meet each breath, each moment of experience, creates an environment where we're conditioning ourselves to be free from desires and discontent in regard to the world, that we're like developing a ability to be just okay or actually be well in this moment, however it is. So maybe the last thing I'll say, and then we'll do some practice together, is many of you have quite a lot of practice, some of you are new to practice, but I want to make a little bit of a distinction between what we call shamatha practice and what we call vipassana practice. Often these are practiced kind of seamlessly, interchangeably. Shamatha practice is more about calming the body, calming the mind, relaxing, allowing the nervous system to move into a rest, digest mode that's very healing, and to foster these conditions that allow the mind to stabilize, where the mind is less busy, less distracted, more malleable, more responsive. Our mind becomes a well-trained dog that heeds our commands. And shamatha practice is supported when we encourage physical relaxation. That'll be part of my instructions. If we can have in awareness any sense of any good feeling in the body, mind, any part of the body that has some ease or contentment is a kind of a catalyst for the mind calming down. Like when the mind doesn't have to be on alert, and the body can kind of settle down. And maybe perhaps most importantly, the shamatha practice is characterized with a steadfast loyalty to the object of meditation. So in this case, the breath, when you notice that the mind has wandered, you just come right back. Notice that the mind's wandered, you just come right back again and again and again, making the object of meditation the primacy of our endeavor. Contrast that slightly with Vipassana, and Louije might be taking us more into the realm of Vipassana. It's more about seeing the true nature of our experience, to cut through our conventional misperceptions about the world, or our mind, and of reality. And this takes some modicum of the mind being collected. You think of the mind as like a telescope. And if the telescope is wobbling all over the place, it's pretty hard to get a clear image of anything. And the emphasis in Vipassana is more on the investigation of the experience. So kind of really seeing what's happening in the mind. And mostly there's a kind of sense in our tradition where people are kind of moving back and forth between these modes when they're practicing mindfulness or they're practicing Vipassana, that there's periods of gathering and collecting and periods of exploration. But for our short time together here, I'm going to really emphasize that we do this kind of shamatha style practice so that we're fully arriving and settling, and that'll support our second half where it might be a little bit more investigative. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know what Luigi's going to offer. So let's find a comfortable posture. However your body can be most comfortable. If your body supports it, it's helpful if we can be a little bit upright. It's a little bit easier to connect with the breath. But if you need to lie down, it's totally fine too. And then it's like rousing mindfulness, that movement to connect with the body in this moment. Feeling the places where the body is supported. Maybe it's the feet on the floor. Maybe it's your tailbone in your seat. And just connecting with whatever's most, whatever sensation is most prominent in the body. Perhaps tuning in to any sensations, any parts of the body where there's tightness or tension or holding. And taking a deep inhale, and on the exhale, allowing the body to soften. A couple more times, deep inhale. And on the exhale, softening, settling. Maybe even a sense of the body getting a little bit heavier as we let go of extra effort. And then letting the awareness rest on the feeling of the breath moving through the body. Letting the attention rest on the feeling of the breath moving through the body with the sense that everything else is kind of moving into the background. So we're filling the field of awareness with a tactile, visceral sense of breathing. The most basic meditation instruction: when breathing in, know that you're breathing in. And when breathing out, know that you're breathing out. When breathing in, knowing, experiencing, feeling the in-breath. When breathing out, knowing, experiencing, feeling the out-breath. And if you're working with sounds, just knowing, experiencing the sounds in the environment or the inner sounds. Nothing we have to change or control. Just receiving this breath just as it is. Greeting the breath as you would a dear friend, with a smile and a heartfelt welcome. And then noticing without any judgment, is the breath deep or is the breath shallow? Just knowing the long breath, knowing the shallow breath. Maybe it's somewhere in between. Maybe you can sense the texture of the breathing, more fine or more coarse, again, without any evaluation. Or maybe noticing the rhythm of your breathing. Or maybe there's no rhythm. Oh, breathing in, experiencing the in-breath. Breathing out, experiencing the out-breath. Simple, everything else rests in the background. And every time the mind wanders, just diligently beginning again, reconnecting with the felt sense of the breathing body. Another instruction from the Satipatthana. Breathe in, experiencing the whole body. Breathing out, experiencing the whole body. The sense of all the different places that the breath touches. Or maybe even a kind of energetic sense of how each cell in the body is in its own way breathing. You can experiment, see the difference between the sense of whole body breathing, or maybe just feeling the expansion and contraction of the belly. Or maybe the rise and fall of the chest. Or some air at the upper lip or the nostrils. Can be quite subtle, but maybe there's some sense of movement, some more subtle in the shoulders. Or the back of the body. Connecting with the breath where it feels most natural and easy, including this sense of whole body breathing. final instruction, breathing in, relaxing the body, breathing out, relaxing the body. This gentle moment by moment encouragement to soften places of holding, places of tightness. Breathing in, relaxing the body, breathing out, relaxing the body. So for the last 10 minutes of our practice period, encouraging you to pick and focus on one of these instructions. Breathing in, knowing the in-breath. Breathing out, knowing the out-breath. Breathing in, experiencing the whole body. Breathing out, experiencing the whole body. Or breathing in, relaxing the body. Breathing out, relaxing the body. Just pick whatever feels most supportive. Some words from the Buddha. The restless, agitated mind, hard to protect, hard to control. The sage makes straight as the fletcher the shaft of an arrow. The mind, hard to control, flighty, alighting where it wishes, one does well to tame. The disciplined mind brings happiness. The mind, hard to see, subtle, alighting where it wishes, the sage protects. A watched mind brings happiness. And letting the sound of the bell guide your attention outward. Thank you for your practice. So, I think we have a break now. Just a 5-minute stretch bio break.
Wonderful. So welcome back. We're good with sound. Just double checking. Great. Thank you. So that was such a beautiful, beautiful lead, such a beautiful introduction to mindfulness of the body. I already feel so much more dropped in just in an hour. such a profound practice. So I'm going to lead us into arriving into the body more fully with some qigong. And you know, it can be a little challenging to offer this remotely because some of the way that we can be more mindful during a qigong practice with slow movements is also reverberating with the community. So we'll do that energetically, and hopefully this visual is supportive for you. And I'll be cueing also with my words. So however it works for you to do the practice, you can lower your gaze and just rely on words. You can use the visuals. But for those of you that haven't done a qigong practice, we're going to just be doing very gentle, soft, slow movements that help us experience, feel, become aware of the body in a very different way than our thinking mind normally engages with it. And qigong can also be a healing practice. And so I wanted to just take a minute to say that we're going to be standing for about 35 minutes. If there's a towel or a rug you can stand on that would be supportive for you, please do that. And if it's too much with how your body is today, all of the visible movements will be mostly from the waist up. So you can do them sitting down, no problem. And you can also make modifications as we go by if there's any physical sensation that might arise, which can happen with qigong, to just place the hands on the belly and bring the attention to the lower belly. We call this the lower dantian, where the energy gathers before it circulates throughout the whole body. So we can just bring the attention to this energy center as a way of grounding. Yeah, and as ever with any practice like this, please just use your best effort. I don't know all of your bodies, and you may not even know how your body is today. I'm going to be seeing how mine is today. So to hopefully take a step back, this is an opportunity to experience it, live it alive a little bit differently, and also let the body express how it's doing and let us be aware of that as part of the healing practice. Okay, so we're going to start with a warm-up. Some of you may be familiar with. I notice now a lot of things that these ancient practices are just, they're on Instagram everywhere. It's kind of funny. But anyway, it's just tapping. So we're going to take a soft fist that can be the thumb cupped or the thumb on the outside. I prefer the thumb cupped so that you're using these knuckles. And it's a soft tap up the outside of the arm to the shoulder, and then rotate and come down the inner arm. We're going to do that 3 times, and you can play with your body today. Does it feel more comfortable to have a more soft tap or to give it a little bit more pressure? What this warm-up is doing last time, it's kind of like shaking out the rug, beating the rug. You know, we've been these channels. Let's go to the other side, up the outside of the arm to the shoulder, down the inside. There are these energy channels that run throughout the whole body. And here we're kind of beating the drum, awakening these channels of the lung, the heart, the pericardium, this triple burner, letting them come into this room also. And we're going to go to the chest. I can't hear you, but it feels kind of good to put a little sound here if that's available to you. Can be gentle. Or even louder than that. I'm not going to scare anybody. And then underneath the armpits, the chest and the breast. This is an area that doesn't get touched that much, but it holds so much chi, this liver chi stagnation that can be here. All the ways that we tuck it in to our joints, to our chest, on the other side, getting our lymph moving. Mostly this zong chi, this chest chi, this whole center, just letting it open and letting the reverberations go all the way to the back ribs, bringing it alive down to the lower belly. And we can move it more rhythmically here, like we're beating a sacred drum, this pelvis, this sacred bowl. This area is the lower dantian, this rice field, this seat of elixir, considered where all the chi that we can absorb, bring in, connect with from the bottoms of our feet and all of our subtle energy bodies comes to reside here to support our well-being. Just loosening it up. Moving to the back, if your shoulders let you, tapping along the spine gently, kidneys, lower back, especially after sitting and in our current culture holds so much tightness. So just checking in, how is it now for you? Opening this Mingmen, this life gate fire seat of our life force. And now you're going to pick a leg. I'm going to do the left, and I'm going to bring into that soft fist. I'm going to go down the back and the side, all the way down to the feet. And then I'm going to come up the medial side and the inside of the leg. So let's get our hips and bum, going down the legs and coming up 3 times. Oh, it feels good. Oh, it's good already. Coming to the other side. And just go down as far as is comfortable if there are limitations in your back or arms, hips. Coming back to the lower dantian. Ah, feels good already. And then we're going to take the pads of our fingertips. And I think of this like a tropical rain, just tapping the skull. So the fingers are light, it's not rigid, just letting them land like thick tropical rain droplets. Top of the skull, back of the head, nape of the neck, over the ears, over the eyes, around the orbital, the eye socket, the jaw, the cheeks, all these little micro areas of perception and tension, just letting them be touched, felt. Coming down very gently the front of the neck to above and then below the collarbone. And then taking the palm and soothing. This can be slightly off the body. You want to try it? What it is when it's slightly off the body to soothe this energetic being, or on the body, this whole front line. And just softening your gaze. If you have balance available to you, you can close your eyes, or softening your gaze, lowering your gaze. Receiving all the sensations generated from such simple movements, the tingling and the warmth, coolness, comfort and discomfort. Becoming aware of this livingness, this body that's living, alive. Beautiful. Okay, we're going to continue with our warm-up, bringing our feet underneath the hips, hip width apart, parallel. So if you have splay or seeing if you can bring them more parallel. And we're going to just start by transferring the weight slightly to the front, going back through the midline, a little bit to the heels. So this isn't, 80-20. It's 80-20 transfer of weight. It's maybe more like 60-40, transferring the weight 60% to the front, coming back 50-50, and transferring it back into the heels. It's forward and back. Just receiving how this is to be standing and very gently moving the weight forward and back. Maybe there's staccato or difficulty in one direction. And without any judgment or concern, it's just to receive, oh, this is how this body is today. And seeing if just with that gentle transfer of weight, we can relax more fully into how it is, however it is. And then finding, if you can, as close to that 50-50 as possible between the front and back of you. And now we're going to be moving in the side to side. So we're going to be transferring our weight to the right, through the center, to the left. I view this like as if there are two hollow columns that I'm calling legs, and they're filled with sand. So I'm pouring from one side this damp sand into the hollow of the opposite leg. And then pouring again. Is it possible to be aware of when it's 50-50? And is it possible to feel the weightedness once the sand has transferred? And again, this doesn't have to be, 100%. 0, or even 90-10. This can be 70-30. This can be 80-20. It depends on how your body is today. Just receiving the sensation of very gentle direction, just the pouring of sand, noticing the 50-50, and then letting it continue. And we can add the arms by mirroring me, the palm that's facing down as the sand is poured into that leg. Then there's a pause as the wrists rotate. One lightens up, and the one that's going down is for the weighted leg. Rotate and transfer the weight. And seeing how it is. Is it that when you're 50-50 in the experience of legs, that the hands are also 50-50? Good, and then coming to balance, letting the hands down, and lowering the gaze, or closing the eyes if that's available to you. Just being with the effects of that form, that there's maybe a different feeling of what it is to be standing here than was available just 15 minutes ago. There's a sense of placement, a balance between forward and back, right and left. And maybe even attuning to all the micro movements, this gentle swaying or softness that the body is showing us just to stand upright. Great. So bringing your eyes back to our Zoom space, our collective space. We're going to start with what's called a standing form. This is the basis for the qigong movements that we'll be doing. And we'll start by, I'm lifting my toes and placing them back down. So I'm lifting them to open the ball of the foot, and then I'm rooting as if the ball of the foot has a beautiful root going deep, as well as right above the heel, these 2 points, rooting into the ground. Relaxing the ankles, relaxing the knees. So they might be slightly bent, they're not hyperextended. Relaxing the pelvis, letting the tailbone, checking, is it out? Is it tucked in? Or can it just be as if there's a string with a weight, letting it be in a very neutral, relaxed position? Bringing the awareness and the energy up the torso. And as if the collarbones open slightly. So some teachers say there's like little tabs that if you pull them horizontally, can open collarbone. Other instruction is to simply just rotate the humerus, that upper arm, outward, and drop the shoulder blades into your back pocket. Relaxing. Letting the energy arms extend beyond this physical body into the ground. Elongating the neck, tucking in the chin, tongue at the upper palate. Brow relaxed. And the crown as if gently suspended by a hook from heaven. entire body relaxed, and mind humble and respectful. This is the standing posture. It's like setting your radio to a station. The chi field is all around us, just like the radio waves are all around us. But it's not until we turn our radio to a station that we can hear that frequency. And this standing form gives us a better chance of experiencing, sensing, feeling the chi. And we'll begin by adding some movement. So the arms are going to float up as if there's this energy wave below, pushing the arms, less muscle, more just being floated up. At about chest level, the elbows, the arms pivot at the elbows to have the palms face forward, and then feeling the weightedness of the elbows sink down, palms follow. And we'll do that again. We're adding the breath now, breathing in as the arms float up, wrists are relaxed. Pivot at the elbows, erect palms, sinking at the elbows, settling. Can it be possible to settle all the way into the feet? Breathing in. This is called mist rises. So it's like the delicate mist rising. And then snow falls. It's got a weightedness all the way to the feet. Breathing in. As I breathe in, I'm even pushing slightly with my feet so that the whole body is breathing out. You can go at your own pace if this pace is too slow or too fast for your breath. Find your inhale and exhale, letting the mist rise. Body feel light. Pausing and settling, sinking. Knees maybe bending slightly as the weightedness of the snow falls. Continue. And on this next time, we're going to bring our arms up to chest height, but instead of pivoting, the wrists are going to rotate out and the arms will go to both sides, opening the heart. And on an exhale, rotating the wrists back so that the palms face down in front of the chest, and exhaling further, settling, sinking. Breathing in, as if there's this beautiful energy wave spiraling through the entirety of you, opening the heart to what is, pausing, breathing out, letting go. Breathing in, continuing to breathe in. Is it possible to hold this moment just as it is and letting go? Settling, sinking, returning. Relaxing the shoulders, relaxing the hips. Now that you're more familiar with the movement, being with this body in a most relaxed way that's available to you by relaxing all the accessories, the jaw, the shoulders, anything extra. so that you can feel, sense, as if the chi is moving you. Is it possible? And coming back to both hands to the sides, lowering the gaze or closing the eyes, to just receive the settling, calming of these simple movements. And we'll be coming a little bit into our neck and our eyes. Again, a very simple movement that we do without thinking all the time, just turning the head. But what happens if we do it with chi, with mindfulness? So we'll start with just the neck, very gentle rotation, because so many of us carry a lot of tension here. But just in micro movements, we're going to rotate with our eyes open to the right, as far as is comfortable, and letting the eyes continue even further to stretch the optical nerve. And then bringing it back, letting the eyes join the neck and the whole thing, as if on a cylinder, rotate back to center. And we'll add a breath to the other side, breathing in as you rotate. Letting the eyes continue. Breathing out as you come back. Continuing at your own pace for a couple of rotations. Again, very gentle. Breathing in. Breathing out. We're just receiving all the cricks, discomforts, or ease that's available for us in this neck area. Breathing out. And now on this rotation, we're going to bring our hands to right at our hips. They can rest there, or if you prefer a little bit more challenge, you can bring them what's called a tiger's mouth, this index and thumb, about an inch off the hips. Bending the knees slightly, it's as if I have a cylinder that's moving as one piece, and that cylinder deep inside is going to start to rotate, and as it does, the whole hip, and then waist, and then shoulders, and then neck, and then eyes rotate. Becoming aware of that cylinder in the lower dantian, letting it rotate to the opposite direction, facing forward, and continuing, breathing in, hips, waist, shoulder, neck, and eyes, breathing out in reverse, hips, waist, shoulder, neck, eyes, breathing in, relaxing the shoulders, breathing out. This capacity for us to see and see clearly in all directions, even behind us, can regulate stress, tension. One last time. Last side. Relaxing the wrists, relaxing the neck, letting go of the effort. We carry so much effort in these areas. Receiving how it is to listen to this neck, these eyes. They do so much work for us, just giving them an opportunity to have a beautiful range of motion connected to the body. Okay. For our last few minutes, we're going to engage the whole body. So this form regulates what's called the triple burner, the sanjiao, and it can also integrate the front and back energy centers of the body. So take it easy. It's a little bit more complex than these, more warm-up, simple ones that I've been offering. And we'll just do our best effort. Feet are hip width apart, rooting into the ground, softening the ankles, softening the knees, tailbone points downward, bringing the energy up the torso, opening the collarbone, extending the energy arms into the ground, elongating the neck, tucking in the chin, relaxing the jaw, tongue at upper palate, crown as if gently suspended from heaven. Whole body relaxed and mind humble. Rotating the palms to face forward and then gathering chi as if in a circle around the waist by breathing in and breathing out. Palms face lower dantian. Breathing in up the midline to the chest level, breathing out, interlacing the fingers. Rotating the palms, breathing in, palms extend upward above the head as far as is comfortable, stretching in both directions from the feet to the wrists, gazing upward if you can and pausing. And then relaxing, unlacing the fingers, relaxing the shoulders, and letting the arms float down, settling into the legs, maybe slightly bending the knees and ankles. Breathing in, gathering the chi at the waist. Breathing out, palms face lower dantian. Breathing in, bringing the chi up through the midline. Breathing out, palms interlace. Breathing in, rotating the palms above the head, stretching upward. Eyes look up, feet extend into ground, pausing. Breathing out, releasing the fingers, relaxing the shoulders, as if the arms are floating down on a cloud. Bending the knees and the ankles. Whole body relaxed, breathing in, gathering the chi, breathing out, receiving. Breathing in, as if your whole body is translucent, bringing the chi up through the midline. Breathing out, interlacing the fingers. Breathing in, rotating the palms, looking upwards to the sky if that's available to you. Lifting the heels if that's available to you. Pause. Breathing out, releasing the arms, settling, sinking, the weightedness of this earth. A few more times, breathing in. Gathering the chi energy arms as if all the way to the horizons. Directing the chi in this treasure trove, this lower dantian. Breathing in, circulating it through the transparency of you. Breathing out, interlacing fingers. Breathing in, rotating and looking up, extending in both directions, unifying the front and the back. And breathing out. Relaxing, settling, as if flying through space. A couple more times quietly. Breathing in. Breathing out. In. Out. In. Out. In, lifting further. And out. Relaxing. Settling. Thinking. Coming to stillness here. Relaxing any areas of the body that have tension just from learning a form or by standing, and then receiving. The balance, the centeredness, how it is to circulate qi through the whole body. In our last few minutes, we'll focus on closing the form with a little bit of a standing meditation. Coming into your standing posture, opening the apertures of the feet to connect with the ocean of qi below you. This entire earth, all its livingness, aliveness, its capacity for regulation, connecting with that just through your attention, softening the ankles and the knees and the pelvis, bringing the energy up the torso, opening the collarbones, relaxing the wrists and the hands, elongating the neck, tucking in the chin, tongue at upper palate, brow relaxed and crown as if gently suspended from heaven. Bringing the palms up to face the lower dantian at a 45-degree angle, as if holding a very delicate qi bubble, half inside the body and half out, luminous, shimmering. Letting the palms open 5 degrees, 10 degrees, slowly, and then close 5 degrees, 10 degrees. Maybe bringing the attention to the center of the palm, on the outside and inside of the hand. Is it possible to playfully imagine or sense a viscosity, tingling, or magnetism as the palms breathe with the qi, opening, closing. Continue this gentle opening and closing of the palms, and playfully imagine that you can see or sense an energy ball. For some, it's imagined as bright. For others, moonlight on a still lake, shimmering. Or the sun at dawn on calm water. Becoming aware of this energy and letting yourself playfully imagine that the space inside your body is shimmering with qi, and that the space outside your body, in your room and houses, neighborhoods, countries, oceans, skies and grounds, all the way to the horizons around you, are also shimmering with qi. And that as these palms move open, the mind can expand to become an entire ocean of qi. And as the palms move back, closing, it's as if you're being illuminated, this single drop of water we call a body, illuminated with qi, open, becoming aware or imagining the radiancy of qi all around you, closing, the radiancy of qi deep inside. Closing the practice, bringing palm on top of the lower dantian. I'm bringing the mind to rest in this beautiful body. Entire body is harmonized with qi, luminous, healthy. Giving thanks for your practice today, to our teachers and our teachers' teachers. And when you're ready, gently opening your eyes with an inner smile, re-entering our Zoom space. Thank you. I think right now on the schedule, we have a break. Louije, do you want to take us into our break?
Sure, thank you. Thank you so much, Gabrielle. That was very yummy and nourishing. And it's such a, I was just really feeling the preciousness of being in a group, in a community of people who are taking care of themselves and taking care of each other in the taking care of oneself. So I'm really grateful to you and your sharing your presence today. So we are going to move into the next period of formal practice, which is eating meditation, daily life practice. And I really want to encourage you to bring the awareness with you. We've spent now a couple of hours getting the momentum going. You may be feeling it. So there will be strong habitual urges maybe to click back into kind of a automatic way of being, maybe in your house or wherever you might be calling in from, getting involved in habitual conversations. All of that is okay. Just bring awareness with you and just notice gently what's on top. No need to, sometimes the mind can get a little bit tight, trying to keep the momentum going. You can just notice that as well. That can be just the thing, the next object to be known. As you're preparing the meal, taking in the taste, there's no kind of singular experience that you're trying to create or go after. Just always noticing what's the attention interested in and how is awareness meeting that? What's the quality of awareness that's knowing the experience? So we will be back in a half an hour. So for folks who are calling in from Pacific time, that's going to be 1:05. I'll see you. Rest well.
But
Oh, Gullu?
does it? Do we have an hour, or we have a?
Oh, I'm
half an
sorry. Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Meditation mind doesn't know how to do time.
hour?
12:35. 12:35. Thanks, Gullu. We are entering here into the period of the day long known as sleepy time. Maybe after getting some food, and maybe it might be warming up where you are. This is where nodding meditation starts to take hold. And it's actually working with sleepy states, tiredness has been such a hugely supportive thing to work with. And it actually pointed to how awareness is just this singular phenomena, not related to any other aspect of the mind. So we can, when there's tiredness or sleepiness or even nodding off, the mind starts dreaming, even that the awareness that knows these states is unaffected by them. So as you notice yourself starting to drift, not a problem, check in with the awareness that's knowing it and see, is that aspect of the mind sleepy itself? Found it very interesting to work with that. So I feel so inspired and refreshed by this morning's practice. Gullu, it feels like you were reading my mind, because I am going in the direction more of Vipassana, of turning our practice towards the phrase that's commonly used is understanding, seeing things to be as they really are, not as the mind kind of typically conceives things to be, sees things to be. We're kind of looking more deeply under the surface of appearances to how our minds actually operate. And if you'll notice, I also really loved, I'm a visual learner, the chart with the different satipatthanas, the different establishments. We went through very thoroughly the body, and I'll be covering what's called Vedanā. And then if you recall, the third establishment is mind. And the Vedanā aspect comes between the body and the mind because it acts almost as a bridge. So what is Vedanā? It's translated roughly as, it's often translated as feeling or feeling tone. But this isn't, our conventional use of the word. It doesn't have anything to do with emotions, though it is often present with emotion, the arising of emotions. Vedanā, feeling tone, is the mental overlay, kind of this casting of a flavor, and the flavor is going to be kind of in three categories, but it's a spectrum. The three categories are pleasant, unpleasant, or painful even. And then something kind of this gray area in the middle, it's translated as neither pleasant nor unpleasant. So it can be intense. It doesn't mean that it's just this wishy-washy, bland experience. The experience itself can be quite strong, but it's neither pleasant nor unpleasant. So big deal. What's the big deal in that? So it's a really big deal, and I hope that I can convey why this is such a big deal. It's been so helpful for like the quote that Gullu brought up in the beginning, the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation. And I think we will all sign up for that. And this inclusion of Vedanā as an aspect of experience to be known and understood and observed has been such a sorrow and lamentation buster right in the moment. So when there is some kind of discomfort, stress coming up in the mind, mindfulness arises, like, what's happening here? Why the stress? What's difficult? And then with practice, the turning toward what is the feeling tone, what is the Vedanā, can be the thing that unhooks us. So in Gulu's analogy of watching the movie, we stop being so sucked into the movie and we are now kind of free of the hold of the spell of what's transpiring on the screen and just seated safely in the comfort of our own body and experience. So typically, conventionally, we are moving through our day and we see various objects, is how it's talked about. So objects are anything that the mind is knowing. It can be sight, smell, taste, touch, sound. I lost track. And in the Buddhist framework, thoughts are also objects. So the thinking mind, other people, cultures, nations, these are all objects arising. The world is an object arising in the mind. And typically, without examination, we assume that those objects have an intrinsic valence to them, an intrinsic hedonic valence to them. This flower is intrinsically beautiful. That sound is intrinsically pleasant. This feeling of pain it's just horrible. It's unpleasant. That person, that politician over there, is just intrinsically horrible. The practice of Vedanā, feeling tone, we start to understand that actually objects have no intrinsic valence to them. They have no intrinsic tone to them. It's the mind, our own minds, casting a spell, casting out. It's a kind of pleasure tone interpretation. So the reason why this is liberating to kind of practice with this and know it and become familiar with it is because when we're going through our day and we see that one co-worker that we just find totally unbearable, we are cornered by them in the office and stuck in that conversation where they're monologuing at us and we're thinking, God, this is awful. Not only is this awful, they're awful. And then you notice, oh, I'm suffering. Mindfulness arises. And then the mind starts turning just a quarter inch towards what's actually happening here is unpleasant feeling. Unpleasant feeling, sounds, sights are arising, an interpretation of what's happening, the whole sense of the world, a sense of geography of being in the workplace. The whole mind is constructing this, and then the valence is unpleasant. And that's all that's happening. That's all that's happening in any given moment are the senses, and then what the mind believes is happening, and whether the mind believes it's good or bad. So with Vedanā, often we start seeing this deep mental patterning around that unpleasant things equal bad, pleasant things equal good. So our whole lives are organized around accumulating, strategizing, and accumulating as much pleasant experience as possible. That seems like maybe there's some love and care in that strategy. But when we stop and look and see how things actually really are, we see how much stress it involves, how much compulsion that can involve, even leading to kind of more extreme states of addiction. We can start zoning out on the things that we deeply care about, people that we care about, just in service of getting more pleasant. And that can point us towards the fact that maybe we're less in the driver's seat than it seems. When we're so driven by trying to organize pleasant experience for ourselves, we can start to notice how much of a drive that is. And yeah. And we can also, when with practice and observation of this feeling tone aspect of experience, we start to see that it's actually quite ephemeral, that pleasant feelings arise, and almost the simile that's used in the suttas and the Buddhist teachings are, as he compares it to a bubble on a surface of water. So this pleasant experience, it's just like a bubble that's there, and then it pops and it's gone. And as we deepen in the meditation and through this calming practice that Gullu led us through, the mind stops being so scattered, stops chasing after all the notifications and all the dramas, and starts to be able to stay with the flow of experience a little bit more closely. And then it can start seeing, oh, this pleasant experience is here and it's gone. It's here and it's gone. Or this unpleasant experience that I'm so aversive towards, just here, and then it's like a shadow. It's nowhere to be found. And what remains if we are kind of without understanding, chasing after or being bossed around by Vedanā, is these deeply entrenched movements and habits. So I was just on retreat a few months ago, and the mind could see that my whole day was just really about organizing around this Vedanā aspect, and spent an inordinate amount of time trying to make sure that I was getting all the pleasant hits I could. So even the scheduling of my bathroom breaks, and it had to be such that I was not going to get attacked by the inner critic for slacking off too much. So my breaks needed to be a certain amount of length. And then, you know, I had to time my going down to the dining hall just right so that I would get the freshest food that was out, you know, the food that was just out of the kitchen and still warm. But I didn't want to look so eager that I was going to have to deal with the unpleasantness of that experience. It's just endless, endless. I had to, sorry, I'm carrying on here, but there was mosquitoes around this cabin I was staying in, and I would have to actually time it so that I knew that the mosquitoes wouldn't be hanging out. So I would be kind of cooped up waiting. I was like, oh no, the sun is still not hitting the doorway, so I need to hang out in here for another half an hour before I can actually go outside. It was just like this. And we have this whole kind of undercurrent of Vedanā management strategies pushing us around in our lives. And so we think that we have free will, but actually we're really getting kind of led around by the nose. You know, and just even having a body itself introduces a whole aspect of Vedana input and painful feeling, actually. It's like a very narrow band of experience that's just right. You know, it's like that Goldilocks zone is very, very narrow. Like, oh, the body's been still too long, so it's painful, so we need to move. And then once we move, then it's too cold, and we cover up, and then it's too hot, and it's too bright, too dark, you know, and you know, hungry, too full, thirsty. Now I have to go to the bathroom. It's too inconvenient to get up. I just sat down, I'm restless. And so it's just endless. It's getting tugged around. So where's the freedom? Where is the freedom when we have these bodies that just have this whole list of crying needs constantly operating? So in our practice, we're gonna sit with this in a guided meditation that is borrowed from Venerable Analayo, Bhikkhu Analayo, who is a revered scholar monastic. So we're going to do a little practice around this to explore this aspect of experience. And the practice isn't so much for us to, you know, conquer or smash feeling tone, you know. It's not to try to convince ourselves otherwise that you know, the body is in pain. We're not trying to surmount nature. Like, the body just has its nature to have this high demand and a lot of feeling tone that goes along with it. How we're utilizing the mindfulness in this is to just observe how the mind gets pushed around by the Vedanā. And just with an itch, just a little bit longer, to see how that unpleasant feeling compels us to react, compels us to respond by trying to seek the pleasure of relief. And in that, just drop by drop, being with the itches, the little discomforts here, it's helpful to start with, you know, just the discomforts that arise in the sitting practice. as we're with that just a little bit more, we're not just kind of gritting our teeth through the discomfort. We just watch the push and then we make the adjustment. We itch the itch and we watch that flood of pleasure. And then we get to see firsthand, what is it that's driving us so much? What is it that's knitting us into our experiences so much? And then at that point, once we've observed, wisdom starts to take over. We've put in our homework and wisdom starts to make its own adjustments. It starts to see, oh, that itch, it's building, it feels intolerable. There's thoughts coming up. I can't stand this. I hate this. Why do I keep on putting myself in these daylongs? And then the itch starts to peak and then it starts to subside and there's like, oh, whew, that's some relief and oh, that's pleasant. And then start thinking about dinner or whatever. The mind goes on. And we just watch that arc over and over again. We just watch the arc, and then the mind notices that it's impermanent and very fleeting and starts to develop a certain kind of independence from that needing to chase after and organize around a really fleeting experience. And we start to see a certain kind of stability that's independent from the flow of Vedanā. Yeah, I just was remembering talking to a Dharma friend years ago who just said this thing. I don't even remember the context of the experience, but he said, I'm just so tired of being bossed around by unpleasant Vedanā. We were really bossed around by it. So this is our way of kind of taking some agency. It's kind of undignified in a certain way to be so bossed around by it. Oh, get to take back our dignity or reconnect with our inherent nobility. Well, let's practice together with this. We'll say, like, we're going to be doing a series of body scans. And sometimes it's not possible to sense the Vedanā of an experience, and that's totally okay. You just go to what's obvious. No need to strain or stress about, noticing, oh, I can feel that a sensation on my knee, but I can't actually detect a feeling tone there, and to get stressed about it. There's no need. Just going in for broad strokes or at the degree that the mind can pick up on Vedanā. And if there are feeling tones that you just are uncategorizable, it's just okay. Just notice that you can pick up that this has a feeling tone, but I just don't know. Just don't know. There's not clarity around how this is categorized. So finding a posture. Taking a moment to connect to the fact that there is a body here. And maybe taking in that just this whole body awareness. Whole body sitting. or lying down. Our mind might get drawn to a specific area, specific sensations. And see if the mind can kind of relax into opening the aperture. I think Gabrielle used the word aperture. If the awareness can broaden its aperture to take in the sensations of the whole body sitting. We'll start in the head area. We'll scan from head to foot and back up from the foot to the head a few times, just scanning for these different flavors of feeling tone, starting with pleasant feeling. So allowing the head area to come into awareness. To whatever degree is just there. No need to drill in for refined detail. If it's kind of diffuse, that's fine. Just checking that head area. Is there some pleasant feeling there? Anywhere in the head area, pleasant feeling. Scanning down to the neck and throat area. Or pleasant feeling. One shoulder, it doesn't matter which one. Pleasant feeling. Arm. Pleasant feeling. Hand. Pleasant feeling. The other shoulder. Pleasant feeling. Arm. Pleasant. Hand. Pleasant. Upper torso and back. Pleasant feeling. Lower torso and back. Pleasant feeling. One hip. Pleasant. Leg. Pleasant. Foot. Pleasant. The other hip. Pleasant. Leg. Pleasant. Foot. pleasant. Aware of the whole body in the sitting posture. Aware of any pleasant feelings in or on this body. Could be feelings of warmth, smoothness, relaxation, pulsing, tingling. Whatever it is, there's no need to identify it in any particular way. Just going with the simple recognition of pleasant, agreeable experience. Continuing with unpleasant feeling. Starting where we left off with the foot. See, is there some unpleasant feeling there? Tension, pressure, however it is. Just knowing it as unpleasant feeling. From the foot to the leg, unpleasant. Feeling the hip, unpleasant. Feeling the other foot, unpleasant. The leg, unpleasant feeling. And the hip, unpleasant feeling. The lower half of the torso and back, unpleasant feeling. The upper half of the torso and back, unpleasant feeling. Shifting to one hand, checking for any unpleasant feeling. Arm, unpleasant feeling. Shoulder, unpleasant. The other hand, unpleasant feeling. The arm, unpleasant feeling. Shoulder, unpleasant feeling. The neck, unpleasant feeling. In the head area, checking if there's any unpleasant feeling there. And broadening awareness to take in the whole body and the posture. Any unpleasant feeling showing up anywhere in or on this body. Neutral feelings. Continuing on with our exploration. Neutral feelings, neither obviously pleasant nor distinctly unpleasant. I'm starting with the head. Let's see if there's any neutral feeling in the head area. Head to the neck. Neutral feelings. One shoulder. Neutral. The arm, neutral feelings. The hand, neutral feelings. The other shoulder, neutral feelings. Neutral feelings in the arm. And neutral feelings. Upper half of the torso and back, neutral feelings. Lower half of the torso and back, neutral feelings. One hip, neutral. Leg, neutral. Foot, neutral. Other hip, neutral feeling. Leg, neutral feeling. Foot, neutral. Aware of this whole body and the sitting posture of any neutral feelings in or on the body. And from having explored bodily, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings, we open the vista of our awareness to include any feelings, even those that manifest mostly on the mental level, without a strong or clearly evident bodily component. Just the affective quality or tone of our experience. This includes the affective tone of thinking, or sounds coming into your environment. Feelings are impermanent, just like bubbles on the surface of water. One feeling after the other, changing phenomena. Sooner or later, the mind is bound to wander. As soon as we realize this, smilingly, we come back to the present moment. And for a moment, we keep noticing the feeling tone, the affective quality of the daydream memory or fantasy that's taken us away from the present moment. Was it a pleasant or unpleasant thought that we got carried away on? Or neither pleasant nor unpleasant? Another way the mind may wander is by being distracted by some bodily pain due to the posture, some itch. Whenever this comes up, we keep watching it for a moment without immediately reacting, just to the extent where we can discern the push of feeling, the push clamoring for our attention, clamoring for a reaction. Just aware of this push to explore the conditionality of feeling, the ways that the feeling tone affects our mind. Having explored that push and taking the appropriate action, stretching or moving mindfully, notice the change in feeling tone as we adjust. We are exploring the push with painful feelings, but we also become aware of the push with pleasant feelings and even with neutral feelings. With neutral feelings, the push will be for something more entertaining, more stimulating. This push of feeling tone is our direct experience of conditionality and impermanence. We feel directly how feeling tone has the mind reacting in aversion or in greed, leaning in, leaning out, pushing, pulling. You also have a direct felt sense of the impermanence of this experience. And it is this very impermanence that holds the maybe the resolution of the push-pull. Impermanence takes care of it for us. I hope that was illuminating or interesting to explore. May have already seen it just in the experience of a scan when with a pleasant feeling tone, how the mind just wants more, starts grabbing after it, doesn't want to move on in the scan even, or in the aversion, just not even wanting to be in the scan, of the when we're with the unpleasant feeling. And with this neutral Vedanā, it has the nature to have the mind kind of zoning it out completely, going into states of not knowing or ignorance. And I want to share this quote by Venerable Analayo just to close on neutral feeling. So he says, of the three types of feeling, the neutral type is the one usually ignored. When faced with this sort of unexciting experience, the tendency of the untrained mind is to shift quickly to something else, to go out in search of some sort of distraction. The inability to just be with neutral feelings can be responsible for a tendency to dramatize whatever happens and coat experience with an overlay of likes and dislikes. Anything can serve as a building block to intensify the affective tonality of what is happening to us, be it on the pleasant or unpleasant side, as long as it triggers the excitement of strong feelings and takes us out of the blandness of neutral ones. The inevitable results of giving free rein to this tendency are biased perceptions and unbalanced reactions. In short, ignorance is in full swing. As a way of countering this potential of neutral feelings to activate the drama of ignorance, we can make a conscious effort to remain aware of neutral feelings, no longer ignoring them. I really love this quote because it kind of points to the mind's habitual tendencies towards craving. Like we crave craving on a certain level. We have desire after desire. So when there is this, channel of or band of neutral experience, the mind rebels. Doesn't just wants something, wants the stimulation. Oh, I find that really interesting to explore too, as we so deeply want peace, and yet when there's the peace of neutral Vedanā, anything but that. Let me get angry at something. So I thank you for your practice. And we're going to shift. And I think maybe Gullu and Gabrielle, and if it's okay with you, we can just maybe take a very brief bio pause for people to stretch. And I find Vedanā so supportive to just take on the go because it's just so simplifying of experience. You don't have to have this kind of minute attention, like this precise attention. Just go as you take your break right now, just take in the Vedanā, the overall feeling tone of what's happening, and see. And I'll see you in 5 minutes, like 31. Hey, so welcome back. This next period is going to be just an opportunity for folks to ask any questions or get any clarifications on what was offered here today. And you can either raise your Zoom hand or chat the question. And yeah, just want to say that it can be kind of evocative to have Q&A. We can kind of be comparing ourselves, or it can feel very tender, or often we'll ask questions in large groups and then just not be able to take in the answer at all. So, and your questions are so helpful for the group. I'm sure if you are having it will be something that I have confidence that somebody else is also wondering it. So
just to give you an idea or a note, I will keep an eye on the chat. So as questions are coming in flow with those who are raising their hands and speaking directly, I will be sure to just hop in and read those questions.
perfect.
Great.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, I see iPhone has raised. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Hello, my name is Sean.
Hi, Sean.
I really appreciate all the practice today. I do find the last practice the most difficult, and it's hard for me to know what strategy to use because to maybe stop. I'm noticing I definitely notice my reactions, noticing the craving, noticing the aversion, and also noticing kind of getting bored with the neutral and wanting to change that. So I'm just curious, what do you recommend once I notice that, then where would you recommend the attention go? And I'm assuming it's not to change that experience, but just to sit with it and watch it change. I think that's what my answer would be. But anything else to add to that? I am somebody who, I'm just going to be very open about it. I'm in recovery and I'm sober. And so it's very, very life-saving for me.
Looks like we lost the phone call.
Okay. I have, Gullu, you already got the question in the chat.
Yeah, right. I posted the link to the sutta in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So maybe as Sean calls back in, we can see if there's another maybe brief question that can be addressed. Or
Yeah, I was talking about movies earlier. This is like a cliffhanger. Didn't get to the end of his question.
That was like such a tender moment for him to get cut off at. It was very jarring, but I can jump in with maybe a quick question while we're waiting for him to come back. And thank you so much for all the sessions this morning. I I was noticing in that last practice, I had a hard time focusing only on like pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, that like everything was all of it. Or pleasant and unpleasant were like two sides of the same coin, that could really coexist for me. And so was just curious if you could speak to that a little bit, and if my intention there should be to like really laser focus only on one or the other. That was definitely challenging.
I can speak to it, and Gullu and Gabrielle, if you have, you know, your own practices around it, please jump in. I have to just be totally frank, like I don't practice Vedana the way that even that guided meditation. I've done that guided meditation several times, but I don't have it as a prominent like focus point of practice. It's often a support for investigation. So kind of how it was described when there's suffering, and I think Sean was speaking to that, when there's like some strong craving or aversion or wanting to move away from boredom arising. That's when there's mindfulness, there can be a turning towards and seeing what is it exactly that is having the mind tip into some reaction around this, and then seeing if it can get curious, if there's curiosity about, oh, what is it? And sometimes I have the experience of just some kind of strand of feeling. It can be like it could be an emotional valence, it could be like a physical valence of something that the mind is reacting to. But I think that if there's the practice of Vedana for me has been really in support of just getting to know the reactivity of the mind with a little bit more detail and fidelity. Yeah. Yeah. Gullu, Gabrielle, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think for me it's really the sort of the sorrow and lamentation that arise in the presence of some unpleasant event, and sometimes it's said that reactivity is extra, like there's the unpleasantness of the thing already there, and in a sense we make it worse with our rejection of it, or complaints. I have a lot of complaints about things, and they don't solve the problem. One of my teachers said, one of our goals in practice is to try to make things better, but at least not make them worse. This is the reminder of like just, and I think the way we do that is just by highlighting it again and again, like just feeling the ouch of that again and again until we've had enough.
Sean has made it back on, so I'll go ahead and Sean, if you'll finish your share and your question. And then there's
Yeah,
one.
I apologize. And thank you for letting me back in. I was pretty much done with the question. I'm just curious to know what strategies you recommend to deal with these, especially cravings. Very important for me to learn how to deal wisely with that. Without chasing it, or and just I'm just curious to know your thoughts on how to deal with this part of the mind, that craving, aversion. Once you do notice that, or the neutral, what are some strategies you recommend on dealing with that in a meditation or out of a meditation?
Mhm. So, I think that compassion first is always good. So and the balance of the overall mind is important. So if the mind is really tipping into becoming very consumed, or if there's a lot of, if the aversion is increasing, then, you know, like we're building our toolkit as we're moving through the practice. So the things that work for me may not work for you. Each mind is a little bit different. For me, when the aversion is building and building and building, I find that I really just have to change the channel sometimes completely. So completely change what the mind is kind of absorbing into. And it when the mind is increasing in aversion, it's not super helpful to try to work with it at that point. But if there is some sense that the aversion, the reactivity is all kind of being held in some mindfulness, then just noticing the Vedana kind of arising, increasing, and decreasing. And so Joseph Goldstein talks about how we start to come to learn with mindful observation that cravings don't need to be gratified in order to pass. So we have this sense that in order for the pain of this craving to subside, I need to actually meet it and do what it's demanding of me. And when there is stability in the mind to observe the process of the Vedana, the craving arising in response to the Vedana, and we can see that the mind impermanence will just take it out. We don't actually have to do anything in response, but we do have to kind of be with the burn, and we can ground ourselves in different ways as we're with that kind of burn. But we want to be kind of wise to not white knuckle or grit or our way through painful experiences. Yeah, Gabrielle, Gullu, thoughts?
Yeah, I was actually just quite moved to hear you say compassion first, because that's kind of the secret sauce in all of this is to be gentle and kind to ourselves.
I'll go ahead and read a question that's from the chat from Sarah. It says, "It is very profound when you speak of the drama of ignorance when running away from a neutral state. Any ways to manage this? As very old habits, as I have been diagnosed late in life as ADHD."
Yeah, I think this is it. Mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of Vedana, the more and more moments of mindfulness giving us more and more agency to see when we're running away, when we're bracing, when we're in aversion. And, having ADHD is just means your mind wanders more than the rest of us. So you have to bring even more diligence and more kind of patience and patience and kind of devotion to that cultivation. But some of my favorite teachers, and I don't know if this is public, so I won't name them, but people you may have heard of say that they have ADHD, and practice has helped them enormously with that.
add something here, which is that for me in this practice of Vedanā, it may weave together the second person's question also around the pleasant, unpleasant kind of happening all at once, or being in the same moment, as well as this question around the drama of ignorance and running away from a neutral state. I find that when my cognitive mind is extended, meaning highly distractible or just running, restless, I can practice Vedanā on just a particular part of the body, that can be stabilizing rather than all experiences all at once. Because there is, if I were really to see clearly how things are, it's like the white screen of a TV that's off, that each little pixel is arising and passing at the same time. It can feel maddening. And yet that, even that sentence is an ordinary mind trying to make sense of something beyond what an ordinary mind can comprehend, which is how things actually are. And so the practice of taking a body part where I'm a little bit more grounded and being with that as, the arising of pleasant, if I notice it, the arising of unpleasant, or what remains of neither of those are arising, can be quite stabilizing, which might help, like with the ADHD question, as well as if the perception is that it's happening all at once. It could be that that's wisdom. It could be that in fact, my back pain is both pleasant and unpleasant at the same time, or that's the capacity of my perception in that moment is to receive it at the same time, kind of conflate the arising and passing that's happening quickly to happen at the same time. Or it could be a lack of discernment, and only I will know that in that moment. But for me, working with especially areas that my mind has said, oh, that's just pain. Sometimes there's quite a deliciousness in it, or familiarity that's also pleasant. And that can be a very wise, sort of receptive state, versus that other experience I explained where it was like everything's happening at the same time. That's just disorienting, because things are unstable in my capacity of awareness, or the arising and passing is happening at the same time too quickly. So I don't know if that's any help, but just wanted to share that.
Thank you. And I want to also footnote something, because it's really easy to go into just like some sense that we do need to white knuckle our cravings, or what we're doing is we're with the practice, we're not trying to create an experience. We're not even necessarily trying to suffer less. We're just really practicing to be with as it is right now. And sometimes the suffering is there. And I hear teachers, there's this one teacher named Gloria Tarania who talks about it's like diving into her favorite, I think she's like into Pringles, and she would just be like opening the lid, and just the thought would be, here we go, and like just whatever it is that the mind, that habit of the mind and the behaviors, it's like sometimes what is arising is like, here we go, like the conditions have come together, the causes and conditions have come together. This is a force of nature. It's like a blizzard is here, a hurricane of craving is here. Here we go, and this is what happens. And sometimes we need to really batten down the hatches so that there's not harm that happens. There's not like a prescription of like standing in the middle of the hurricane as it's blowing through. We want to. There's not a gold star that we get by bracing through experience.
Can I ask a question? Can everybody hear me?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
This might be for my menopausal and perimenopausal sisters. Does anybody have any tips? Lately, I just don't recognize myself. In the past, my 20s and 30s, I could like have a, negative thing pop up and just be like, boom, and handle it like beautifully. But in the last few years, I just completely different reaction to any type of negative thing. And I just can't handle it as well. I'm short-tempered, and it's not me, it's like so not me, but it's completely hormonal and physical. So my question is this, from my sisters out there. If you've gone through this, if you've passed through it, what have been your tips to yourself to try to get through those negative things without, freaking out? Because once I'm through the, like overreacting to something, I'm like, why did I overreact to that? That is like, I don't even care. It's kind of like, it just comes up. So, yeah, that's my question. Does anybody have any good tips about hormonal overreactions to those negative things?
I don't know about hormonal overreactions, but there's a center for, I'm in the midlife Sangha at New York Insight, and someone said there's a NYU center for menopause that she just joined. She had cancer in early menopause. So I don't know I don't know where you live, but there are resources like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know there's a lot. I just didn't know if maybe people today had any tips for things that have worked for them, like Buddhist philosophy that's worked, things like that. Thank you, though.
Andrea, I think you're speaking to like it's a big question, and I will only touch on it briefly. Maybe other people have other things too, but I think that what you're speaking about is really actually touching into some of the biggest insights that our practice reveals to us, which is that we are conditioned beings. When hormones are here, when certain conditions come together, the personality is such, and the reactions are such, and the fact that you notice that there has been a shift over time is just showing that truth, is that there's not this solid self that kind of migrates through, and there's certainly nothing wrong when there is kind of this dynamic shifting that happens over time. I think people will have different strategies for kind of meeting those moments with the kind of care and gentleness that they need. And it's seeing that the mind being affected by the body is actually exactly what the Buddha was pointing towards, that there is this connection, and we are a product of those connections. Who we think we are is an outcome, is a projection of those things. So not to be feared, I think. Yeah. And I'm seeing that we're coming close to the end of our time, and I feel like I've spoken a lot, so I'm curious if there were any announcements from anybody on the team, and if somebody would like to do the dedication of merit. I feel like I've said a lot, but I need to do it too.
I'll do my quick closing before you do the dedication.
Great.
Feel more in alignment. Okay. Give me just 1 second. I'm just going to post a couple of things in the chat for folks. So you have it. So what you'll find, everyone, in the chat are just some key links. Today's offering from Louije, Gabrielle, and Gullu is all Dana based. It is Dana that is shared between us here at the center and the teaching team. So they are freely offering their teachings and their time for you today on this Saturday. So I know most of you will have already offered some Dana and offered some gratitude to register for this. And if you are feeling like more is spilling out of your heart and you're wanting to give more, there is a link there in the chat. Everything that I've posted in the chat in terms of links and notes will also be sent to you in the next 48 to 72 hours. You'll get a follow-up email from us. It will link you to the retreat that the teaching team will be holding here on land from September 14th to September 19th. You'll also receive the recording from today. And if there's any other resources, Gullu, I grabbed that link that you posted in the chat already as a response. But if Louije and Gabrielle, you have any other links or notes you would like to send to me as resources, we can also add that to the email that will go out to everyone. And yeah, just deep gratitude, gratitude to the teaching team. Thank you so much for making the space and time. It's always beautiful to get to see a little bit of your teaching and kind of get a sense of your energy if I've not sat with you before. And we are always incredibly grateful for everyone who comes out and shows up and also commits to the time on their Saturdays. So thank you, everyone. Yeah, just keep an eye out for an email from us. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the main announcement for me is just a reminder again that this is just a teaser for time in person together. If you haven't been to Big Bear Retreat Center, it's a beautiful place to practice, really nice, supportive facilities, and true retreat when you sort of like leave your place of where you reside and come into the San Bernardino National Forest at clean, crisp, high altitude air. So hope to see some of you there. When I was reading the description of the Satipatthana Sutta, how this practice is for the alleviation of stress and discontent and sorrow and lamentation, we can sometimes, and this is definitely like true on an individual level, that I'm very motivated to clean up my own act, so to speak. And at the same time, and there's great goodness in this. The Buddha talked about punya, merit that we generate when we engage in practice. And you've all cultivated this beautiful, karmic energy that's forward leading by committing yourself to these hours of practice and hopefully a lifetime of practice. And it's lovely at the end of these types of gatherings to share the wish that all the goodness that we've shared here, all the wisdom that's been cultivated, all the moments of mindfulness inure to the benefit of everyone everywhere without exception. The energy will ripple out and transform our world, which is very much in need of transformation. I'll just ring the bell to formally end our time together. Thank you everyone so much for your practice. Folks want to unmute and say goodbye. That's always nice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.
teachers.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Mhm.
Bye-bye.
Be well.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
All a blessing.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thanks, Sarah.
Saturday.
Nice to see you.